What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline and Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the Touchline Talk content coming out on YouTube. CONCACAF Nations League, U.S. Men's National Team 2, Mexican Men's National Team 0, another 2-0, another win for the U.S. Not the most inspiring performance. There was not much going on in the first half. Christian Pulisic had the early chance that he did really well with to actually create the opportunity, just couldn't actually put it in the back of the net, forced a good save out of Memo Ochoa. And then there really wasn't all that much going on until Tyler Adams came out of nowhere with a rocket right at the end, seconds before the halftime whistle, to give the U.S. the lead, to break that Mexican resistance. And all of a sudden, the game plan kind of has to change a little bit there for Mexico, as now you're chasing the game. Gio Reyna comes up with the second goal, and there really isn't too much stress. You had the penalty that got taken back correctly for Jedi Robinson that he appeared to concede a penalty. VAR overturns it. It was a dive. It should have been a yellow. Ultimately, they got it correct, and the better team won this game. Even though the U.S. men's national team were not at their best, they were clearly the better team in this game. Mexico were trying to just keep this competitive, try and stay in the game, try and keep it scoreless as long as they can, and that is a representation of where these two teams are at right now. So the conversation I really want to have, because there's not too much to say about the U.S. men's national team doing this again, is the Greg Berhalter part of this. And specifically the way this Nations League unfolded. Because they barely survived Jamaica, a Jamaica team that doesn't have Leon Bailey right now, that is not in the best situation with everything going on off the field. And the U.S. needed some good fortune, late goal to even get it to extra time, and then they take over from there. Gio Reyna is fantastic in that game as well. And so there was plenty of criticism coming out of that game levied toward Greg Berhalter. Which there's always criticism levied toward Greg Berhalter. And plenty of it is valid. I certainly have not been a Greg Berhalter apologist. To me, after what happened in the sort of wrap-up of the World Cup and the whole Gio Reyna situation, to me, that's the final straw. I can't trust that guy to coach these players because he broke that line of trust with them. Clearly, they feel differently, which was the point I made when he got rehired. This wouldn't happen if the players weren't okay with it. But from an on-field perspective, you can point to all kinds of things that maybe this team doesn't always live up to their potential. The position Gio Reyna was playing in this game, I have no explanation for. I do not understand it. Jesse Marsch went in on it at halftime. I wholeheartedly agree with him. What is he doing that far back? You had three midfielders. You play him as the 10, as the forward, one of the three, and you put Adams and McKinney behind him. I don't understand any kind of explanation for any kind of other approach. It makes zero sense to me. I say that to say there are reasons to criticize Greg Berhalter. But you know what Greg Berhalter has done? Greg Berhalter took a team that needed to be rebuilt and revitalized after missing the World Cup in embarrassing fashion. He has now dominated the Nations League. Dominated Mexico to the point where these games aren't even competitive right now. There was a 3-0 in the previous edition of the Nations League, and this was a 2-0 that, probably a deserved scoreline, but there was only one team that was really trying to score goals here. And the U.S. didn't even play well, and they won 2-0 comfortably. The U.S. didn't play well in these two games, and they still found a way to win this tournament. They are clearly the classic CONCACAF, and oh, by the way, they reinforced that at the World Cup as well by being the only team to get out of the group stage and looking really, really, really good in the group stage. Netherlands game didn't go so well. That is one bad result in a knockout game with the A squad. I know qualifying wasn't great, but that's a different animal. I have been trying to harp on this point, and now I want to take it to the next level because the U.S. just did this again and won another Nations League. The single most important thing you have to be able to do as a national team is understand how to win and how to adapt and how to survive in knockout tournaments. That is a skill. I talk about this with the MLS playoffs. The same thing applies. It's not about being the best team. It is about being the team that gets the results. Because how often does the best team actually win a tournament? And by best team, I mean the team that looks the most impressive at that tournament. It doesn't happen very often. It's the team that finds ways to navigate the ups and downs, that deals with the chaos, that has a plan B, that can play in multiple ways, that can win ugly. This U.S. team is terrific at that. They can play a very convincing game against England where they don't have the ball, and they can also break teams down and find ways to score goals against teams that are trying to stop them from playing. A la this game against Mexico. Every single time the stakes get raised, they show up. If you want to criticize Berhalter from an optics and a performance standpoint, and by performance I mean what it looks like on the field, the way they play, were they the better team? There is certainly room to do that. However, you cannot have it both ways. I am somebody who is very process driven. I care a lot about that stuff. Most people don't. They care about the result. It is one of my great frustrations in sports, but that's where we're at. And I get it, because obviously you're trying to win. That's the whole point of knockout tournaments, is it doesn't have to be pretty. You've got to find a way to get results. If the U.S. had dominated Jamaica, hit the post 3 times, should have scored 5 goals, and lost 1-0 or lost in a penalty shootout or something, people will be coming for Berhalter's head and calling for him to be fired because they lost to Jamaica in the semifinals of the Nations League. You cannot then come back and say it wasn't good enough when they won the tournament. You either have to care about the process and the way it looks, or you have to care about the results. You can't pick whichever one is convenient for you at that time and go, yeah, they played great, but they didn't actually win, or yeah, they won, but they didn't play great. It's got to be one or the other. If you're going to come after Berhalter and say this guy is incompetent and cannot coach this team, it is fair to simultaneously, and this is where I'm at on it, I have plenty of frustrations with Berhalter. I'm not convinced he's the best man for the job. And at the same time, he has this team in the best position possible heading into Copa America and heading into the World Cup 2026. It doesn't mean they're going to win it. It doesn't mean I agree with everything he does. But this is happening too consistently, where they find ways to win, where they show up on the biggest stage in the biggest moments with trophies on the line and at the World Cup, for it to be a coincidence or for it to be lucky. There is an art to this. And for whatever reason, Berhalter has gotten this group to figure it out. And over a 34, 36, 38 game regular season, maybe some of the stuff that I don't like, and generally I think U.S. men's national team fans don't like, comes back to bite you more. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, can you get a group of guys together get them unified on the same page, and then get them to go and give themselves an opportunity to win every single game they play? Can you get them to figure out how to survive and thrive in the pressure of a knockout tournament when weird things are going to happen? And he is doing a great job of that. To me, that is indisputable. That is just fact. They are dominating this continent. And they've been at their best in knockout tournaments. And that is what you have to do at the international level. You have to survive qualifying. It doesn't matter if you finish first or third. It matters whether you get yourself in and what you do there. That's the world we live in. That's the way international works. And so I come back to that same point of what, at this point, we, and collectively, just as the U.S. men's national team community, I feel like we're just looking for any reason possible to criticize Berhalter. And there are certainly fair reasons to do so. But you got to give him credit at the same time. Because he's getting the results. I thought this was a results-based business. He's doing the job. You might not like how he's doing it. You might not like the players he's doing it with. But this team consistently is dominating Mexico. They've gotten, generally speaking, the better of Canada. At least at the highest, the highest pressure moments, the biggest stakes with the A team. And they were way better than everybody else in CONCACAF, the World Cup. Those are the most important things for the manager of the U.S. men's national team, right? That's what everybody's looking toward. And I fully expect they're going to show up and have a good performance at the Copa America for the exact same reason. This is what they do. They are built for these kind of tournaments. And look, maybe you can say it's the players and not him, and there's probably some validity to that. But again, this was a group of players, well, not this group, but this was a team that didn't make it in 2018. He got them to the knockout stage. They are winning Nations League after Nations League. It's time to give this guy some credit. You don't have to love everything about him. I don't love everything about him. I don't love the fact he's the coach because of everything that's happened off the field. But I'll close with kind of where I started. The whole point of international managers and the international game is, can you bring a group together and get them clicking and surviving in knockout tournaments? That is the whole name of the game. And Greg Berhalter is doing it time and time again. And yes, you can say, okay, BJ Callahan had one of the Nations League. That was Berhalter's staff, A. And B, there was still plenty of Berhalter influence there. He's not going anywhere. Unless Copa America is a catastrophe. Because he's doing the job. He is doing what you want. They are thriving in knockout situations and are learning and demonstrating they have learned how to win in multiple different ways. That's all you can ask for. What else would you prefer to that? Sure, you want it to look great all the time and you want them to win 3-0 all the time. That's not how this works. If you want a team to make a deep run in a World Cup, this is how you do it. You do it by being multidimensional, by having multiple ways to win, and by learning how to survive and being situationally excellent. That's what the U.S. men's national team are right now. And Greg Berhalter deserves an immense amount of credit for that. Whether you like him or not. To me, that is just The proof is the result. What this team does when they show up to tournaments, it's indisputable. Because they're getting the job done. And he's got to have at least something to do with it. Other two things I want to mention really quickly. 2 weeks into the NWSL season, most of the teams outside of San Diego and Gotham have played 2 games. The only 2 teams that have won both of their games would be the Chicago Red Stars and Kansas City Current, the worst 2 teams in the league last season because, of course, it's the NWSL. Then, on top of that, both expansion teams, Bay FC and Utah Royals, already have wins. Utah Royals getting theirs on Friday night. Bay FC nearly got a point after getting a win, so they were almost undefeated, gave up a stoppage time winner to the Washington Spirit. So both of those teams, 1 win through 2 games. San Diego Wave go from winning the Challenge Cup to losing their home opener. This league's parity and the competitiveness from top to bottom every single week is absolutely incredible. I've talked about this before, but we're 2 weeks in. We've got 2 more teams in the league, and we're already seeing it again. The MLS note I want to mention, just some quick thoughts on the LA Galaxy. They make a incredible late run, scoring 3 goals in a really short stretch at the end of the game to overturn a 2-0 deficit against Sporting Kansas City. This team is the best attacking team in MLS right now on a goals per game standpoint. They also are still not good defensively. They are also undefeated. They should have had another win against Inter Miami. They've been really, really good on the road, not good at home. There are a lot of conflicting signals here. The first thing is, for Greg Vanney's job security, for the confidence of this team, it was vital they got off to a good start, and they have. They are putting points on the board. That is something they did not do last season. Second, to me, there is one obvious big question that's going to determine how this season goes and is going to determine whether to what degree they are actually contenders in terms of winning MLS Cup. And that is, which of these trends is going to continue throughout the season? Are they going to be this elite attacking team that is scoring multiple goals pretty much every single week? I believe the only game they didn't was that Inter Miami game, when they should have. And is scoring multiple goals on the road consistently. Is that going to win out, or is the bad defense going to win out? Because if they keep up this high-octane attack, leaky defense, they're not winning the MLS Cup. You don't win playing that way. Go ask previous versions of LAFC. Previous versions of Atlanta United. You don't win being that unbalanced. Now, if they drop a little bit in attack but are still really good and they clean things up defensively, absolutely. But if the offense falls off a cliff and the defense cleans up a little bit, do they have enough attacking firepower? They're clearly improved. They should make the playoffs. But then again, we've said that before, it's early. But that is what I'm watching with this team is this defensive trend going to continue? Are they going to find a way to clean this up a little bit? Because you do have to be good defensively. You can win a lot of games. You can make the playoffs by being bad defensively and really good in attack. And clearly they've got all kinds of attacking talent. And Dejan Joveljic has been really, really good. Why it took so long for him to actually get an opportunity, I still don't really understand. Because he just produces every time he takes the field. Now he's getting an expanded role, and he's thriving. The DPs seem to have some... I have some questions still, but generally speaking, the DPs have been good. You at least believe there's something positive going on there as well. Obviously, Ricky Puig is ridiculously good. There's a lot going right here. That's going to be the story for me, though, is which is the closest thing to the true version of the Galaxy throughout the season? Is it the team that is as good as anybody in the league at scoring goals, or is it the team that is still near the bottom of the league defensively? Because if one of those things gives, that's going to tell you just how good this team is and just how much of a chance they have to actually win MLS Cup. Because right now it's kind of the similar vein as Inter Miami of really, really good in attack, not so great defensively. That's not a formula for winning MLS Cup. Can they shift that balance just enough? Can they keep up what they're doing in attack? That's the big question for me. Just wanted to give some thoughts real quick after their comeback win over the weekend. That is all for the weekend roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.